but another to admit we're the worst band in the world, but we don't give up.
It was like a scientific lab, really, 10cc, where we were encouraging each other to push the limits of what a pop song could be.
Load up, load up.
We were a completely self-contained band. We just did what we wanted to do. We were not in the slightest bit interested in anybody else.
I believe that musically, at least, we achieved a lot in a very short space of time.
10cc was definitely on its own planet. We would experiment on every song we ever took in the studio. And I think we did open up some avenues that people had never thought of trying.
When you look back at 10cc now, and if you look through their whole careers, not just while they were part of the group, I mean, you realize that it was an amazing meeting of so much talent.
They have influence beyond the obvious influence of nice songs and hit records. And more than almost any other group, they have branched out into lots of different areas, particularly electronics, videos, great songwriting. I mean, they're much more than just an ordinary pop group.
The Manchester scene was amazing because there were so many clubs, so many venues for bands to play in. And every Saturday I go out with my mates and we'd just go and see bands. We'd just go from club to club.
We saw at these clubs, before they had hits, the Stones and all those Liverpool bands. So there was a very lively, healthy music, sweaty club scene.
A bit of publicity and a bit of action was coming out of Manchester, sort of early 60s. And most of the kids of that period wanted to be in a band. I don't know why, but they did. Everyone wanted to be in a band, and it was just a real hoot.
One of the first groups I was with was called the Empress of Rhythm, and we went to an audition at the BBC, and on stage walked these four guys who had leather jackets and jeans on. It was the Beatles. And I sat there looking at these four guys saying, these guys are incredible, they're so different. And I talked about it to my mates in the Empress of Rhythm, and they were all saying, no way, man, no way. Cliff and the Shads are the best. Cliff and the Shadows, yeah. These guys are never going to make it. They failed the audition. The Beatles failed the BBC audition. We passed with all our Shadows footsteps.
When I was 14 and underage and going to these clubs, I saw Eric Stewart in the Empress of Rhythm, and he later went on to join Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders and became a pop star, you know, before we even met.
The first record we released went to number 46, and because we were now a chart group, I was suddenly earning more than my father was in one night than he would earn in a week. And then Game of Love was number one in Britain, number one in America in 1965. I would have been 19 then. But after that, Wayne wanted to go solo. And he walked out on us one night on stage. He just suddenly turned around and said, it's all yours, guys, and disappeared off stage. So we just carried on and we went down the storm. Went back to the studio to see the A&R man again and said, Wayne's left the band. He said, well, it's funny, Eric. He said, I've got a song here that I think would suit your voice. It's called Groovy Kind of Love. We recorded it. It was number one everywhere.
When I'm feeling blue, all I have to do is take a look at you.
I was first aware of Eric Stewart as a mind bender, and it was one of those interesting phenomena where the backing band does better than the lead singer after the lead singer and the band split. And the Mindbenders had this massive hit in America, and I think it got to number 2 in England, Groovy Kind of Love, which was just a great song.
Wouldn't you agree, baby, you and me got a groovy kind of love. We got a groovy kind of love.
It's amazing to think that Eric was in the Mindbenders. I don't think people register this at all, because of course they associate the group with Wayne Fontana. But I mean, it's important to see that These people were just all bees in this big hive that was the northern scene in the 60s in this country, and such an important, vibrant part of what was called the British invasion in America.
I started writing seriously when I was about 18. I was in a band with Kevin called the Mockingbirds. I was so inspired and turned on by the Beatles that I thought I'm going to really do some serious songwriting. And I came up with a couple of songs that were recorded, one of which was For Your Love, and our record company turned our version of it down, and it eventually found its way to the Yardbirds, and that became my first hit as a songwriter.
I'll give you everything and more, and that's for sure.
When I think back of what I wrote before For Your Love, it was pretty crass, I think. But For Your Love was different, and I sort of entered a different era of my songwriting. Particularly like 65, 66 were very, very productive for me as a songwriter. I mean, every year is productive, but I mean productive in the very successful songs.
People don't appreciate the depth of the catalogue that Graham Gouldman assembled, the world hits that he churned out. For the Yardbirds, both For Your Love and Heart Full of Soul were American top 10 records. And then Herman's Hermits, a million seller with Listen People, number 3 in America, and No Milk Today, which was the flip of There's a Kind of Hush.
No milk today, it seems a common sight.
And then, of course, the Hollies, Bus Stop, which was their first American top 10 record and is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
When we first met Graham Gouldman, he looked like he was 12, but he must have been like 15 or something. He sat down, he picked up the guitar, and he goes, Bus stop, wet day, she's there, I say, please. Now, from the opening line, if you're smart at all, you know that this is a great song. And not only is it a great song, but it could be a single, it could be a hit, a smash.
All that summer we enjoyed it, wind and rain and shine.
So he gets to the end of the song and we go, great, what else have we got? Right? He goes, well, I got this song that I wrote about a week ago. It goes like this. Look through any window, yeah.
What do you see?
And so we wanted that song too, because we knew what the Hollies could do to that song.
Look through any window, yeah. What do you see?
There's no doubt about it that we recognised in Graham Gouldman that he was really a formidable writer. And that little kid that we met changed my life for the better. You know, because Bus Stop was a smash for the Hollies. Look Through Any Window was a smash for the Hollies. And that set us off on a trajectory that I've been on ever since. You know, so in a very profound way, Graham Gouldman changed my life. No doubt about it. He's a good kid. We knew that the moment we met him.
I do remember one or two articles about Graham Gouldman in the very early days saying, you know, he's written 4 or 5 mega hits for other acts, but he can't seem to write one for his own band, which was the Mockingbirds. And they were a good group, but for some reason the other group seemed to nab the really commercial songs. But he had enormous variety in his songwriting way before he began displaying that in 10cc.
Graham was a top-rate writer. He may not have realized it at the time because he was so young and he was just doing it as his job. But the fact is, he has one of the best catalogs in this country, and he should be recognized for that.
I always wanted to manage Graham because I thought Graham was brilliant. And I used to go around and meet him and try and encourage him. I knew Kevin Lol as well. We were from a tight community. We all lived near each other. Kevin Lol were crazies. I love Kevin Lol. They were inseparable. They were like art students. They always had mad ideas.
Kevin and I had become such close chums doing crazy projects together, art projects and music projects. And through Graham, we met Eric and really liked Eric. And that was the first time we started a relationship with Eric Stewart.
Eric was a bit of a star in his own right, but I think more than anything else, he wanted to be a producer, an engineer, and very smartly he sort of partnered with a guy in the local music shop, and they laboriously set up what became Strawberry Studios.
We found this old building in the middle of Stockport and started to turn it into a studio. We're doing it ourselves with hammers and nails. It's incredible. And we started with a very little control desk and 2 stereo machines. And Strawberry Studios opened and we started getting work. So I went from the Mindbenders to being an engineer at Strawberry.
For some reason, he got in touch with myself and Lol to come and help him test the first version of the studio. And we just tried some stuff, really to test the capabilities of the new equipment.
You needed somebody that would bang drums endlessly for hours on end while he fiddled and, finessed the noise to get a good drum sound. Even Kevin was beginning to fade. So I went in and I sat on the floor with an acoustic guitar and I sat in front of the bass drum and I started strumming any old stuff just to keep Kevin buoyant, really, so they could keep banging. And Eric was very enthusiastic, just a bit more, just a bit more. And at some point, to keep me occupied, I started singing this nursery rhyme that sort of came spontaneously.
It was simply a test, but a guy, a music publisher, swung by and heard what we were doing and said, it's a smash. People actually did say things like that in those days. And we promptly wiped it by mistake, erased it, and had to start again from scratch.
We got it slightly better because we knew what we were doing a bit. And indeed, that's how Neanderthal Man was made. And it was released and it was a hit everywhere.
The studio was getting more professional. After Neanderthal Man was a hit, we were being booked all the time. And Graham Gouldman had been working in America. When he heard that we were actually working together with people, he joined our backing group team.
Essentially, we were 4 disparate guys who became a house band for the various acts that came through the door of Strawberry Studios. And it was, I don't know, it was more like Broadway Danny Rose than rock and roll. There were some pretty bizarre people came through that door. We found ourselves doing music for football teams and TV producers' girlfriends, ventriloquists, and God knows what else. So it was a crash course in being versatile.
I remember Harvey Lisberg, Graham's manager, persuaded Neil Sedaka, who had had his hits in the 50s and had a pretty dry run in the 60s. He was pretty much out of favour. He'd sold Neil on these great guys at Strawberry Studios in Manchester that could produce wonderful material for him.
Neil was actually due to make a new record and had all this material. And I think the idea was he'd come over and do like 2 or 3 songs. But it worked like magic and we all got on very well and Neil did the whole album.
That's when the music takes me.
We did 5 hit singles, I think, and a couple of hit albums. He came back again. And it was Neil said, you should keep working on your own material because you deserve to have some hits. You're good. And he encouraged us.
I've no idea why we never thought of it before, but we didn't. And it was only after we'd finished the album with Neil Sedaka that we decided that we should become a band. Eric and I had written a song called Waterfall that Apple Records, the Beatles record company, were interested in putting out. So we thought, well, in case they do, let's get everything ready. And because Eric and I had written the A-side, we thought it was fair that Kevin and Lol should write the B-side.
So we went next door to the control room and knocked out Donna. We came and recorded it. And everyone, when we'd finished that, we thought, well, maybe this is even more commercial than Waterfall.
Donna was a sort of pastiche of 50s doo-wop. And Eric had the bright idea of asking Jonathan King to come down and have a listen to it, which